Welcome to a Crop and Create delivered video tutorial from Scrapbook Cards Today magazine. This is designer Lynn Ghahary, and today we are going to create a layout from start to finish using the Crop and Create delivered summer kit. Let's get started. We are going to be using this sketch from Becky Fleck to create our layout. You can see that it has room for 2 photos as well as several different patterned papers and embellishments. I'm going to begin creating my layout with just a plain piece of white cardstock. I'm then going to use this red patterned paper. I've cut it to 10 by 10 inches square, and I'm going to adhere it to the center of my layout. So I'm just going to use my ruler and measure in 1 inch from both the top and the sides to make sure I have the right placement. I have then cut several strips of this colorful striped patterned paper, and I'm going to be adhering those around the perimeter of the red patterned paper. I'm going to create mitered corners for this layout. So what I'm going to do is lightly add adhesive to the center of this patterned paper strip, and then I will come in here with an X-Acto knife, and I will simply line up my ruler with the edge of the the red patterned paper and the edge of the base cardstock. And then I will just trim away that triangle to create a mitered corner. It helps if you have a very sharp blade. I had to actually switch out my blade because it wasn't cutting through my patterned paper very easily. And again, as long as you don't add adhesive all the way to the edge of your patterned paper strip, this method works really well. You can then go back and add any adhesive that you need to the mitered corners if you feel that it's pulling up from your page a little bit. Now that I have the mitered corners all completed, I'm going to go ahead and add some more patterned paper strips as shown in the sketch. The colors and patterns that I chose, I just pulled colors from the colorful striped patterned paper, and I've cut them to 6 inches by 2 inches, and I'm simply just going to adhere them here on the right side of my layout. I'm just using my ruler just to make sure that everything is straight. And once I have those all adhered, I'm going to come in here with my black journaling pen and add pen stitching around the perimeter of that red patterned paper. I really love to add pen stitching. I think it adds another layer of details to my layouts, and it really helps to separate when there's 2 patterned papers lying next to each other. It helps, for example, in this instance, it really helps to make that red patterned paper pop a little bit against the striped patterned paper border. Now that I have my pen stitching all completed, I'm going to come back in here and start figuring out photo placement. You can see that I'm actually using 2 photos of my niece, Gia. The sketch calls for much smaller photos. I believe it calls for 2 square photos or 3 by 2 3/4 photos, but this large picture of my niece was just too cute for me to crop. I didn't want to cut it at all, so I decided to keep it large. And I'm just going to change around some of the placements of the other design elements on my layout to accommodate for the larger size of the photo. Sketches are great, but I don't want you to be limited by the photo size or anything that you see in a sketch. It's simply meant to be for inspiration. So you can see right now I've chosen to use one of the Fancy Pants titles. I'm just kind of playing around and figuring out if it will be the same size as my photo. And now that I have it, I'm going to adhere my photo as well as the title piece to my layout. I'll just be using my ruler, and I'm going to measure in approximately 1 inch from both the left side and the top of the red patterned paper. Once I get my photo and this title piece adhered to my layout, I'm going to move along and just start layering a little bit more and adding a little bit more detail to my layout. I've actually used one of the pieces of Fancy Pants patterned paper, that bright green solid, and I've cut it into a banner shape. And I'm going to simply place that to the right side of my large photo. And I'll adhere that down in place. I'm also going to be using several of these Fancy Pants tags. I know in your kit you only received one tag. I'm going to be using several on this layout. I want to encourage you to use the tag that you do have in your kit to create more tags from the patterned paper simply by using it as a template. You can just place it on your patterned paper, trace around it, and then cut it out. To create the different colored reinforcement on the tags, you can use your circle punches or hole punches and just again pick a contrasting patterned paper color, create the reinforcement, and then place that on your tags. I'm just using the tags again to just add a little bit more color and a little bit more contrast on these patterned paper pieces. I chose to use a solid color as well as the polka dot just to add a little bit more visual interest. I wasn't sure if I was going to keep the white string on the tags. I thought maybe I would tie them into a bow. But you'll see later on, I end up I clipped those off because I end up adding some more crochet thread and tying that into a bow, and I didn't want it to be too busy. Now I'm going to go ahead and place down that square photo. This photo I've cropped to 3 by 3 inches square. I'm going to actually use dimensional adhesive to adhere the photo to my layout. Dimensional adhesive is great not just for your embellishments, but also for your photos. It really helps them to pop off the page a little bit. It provides a little bit of shadow and just really makes them stand out from the background. And especially since a lot of these pattern papers are just flat and one on top of the other, I really wanted this photo to stand out a little bit. So now we're going to do a little bit of stamping. I am going to be using Lucky Limeade ink from Stampin' Up, as well as the chevron stamp from the Summer Kit stamp set. I'm going for a tone-on-tone look, so that's why I chose the Lucky Limeade, because I felt it was very close in color to that green solid patterned paper. This is a We Are Memory Keepers piercing board. It's just a foam, like a stiff foam board that actually comes with their paper piercing kits, but I wanted to use it for my stamping. I find that when I'm stamping on several layers of patterned paper, that sometimes my stamp images don't always come out very clear. So it's nice to put something that has a little bit of give, like this foam board, underneath my project so that I can really give it a good little push and know that I'm going to get a nice, crisp, clear image. I wanted to add the stamping just for another layer of detail. This may be a place, for example, that I would add washi tape, but since there's no washi tape in this kit, I thought that the stamp detail gave the same effect, and again just drew your eye right to that piece of patterned paper. And now here I am just adding the crochet thread. This is from my stash, but it's just white crochet thread, and I'm just wrapping it around a few times and tying a bow, and then I'll trim off the excess. For my title, I'm doing a little play on the words summer that appear on that Fancy Pants title piece. So I'm using these really large word stickers from Basil Basics, and I'm going to be using the word summer and kind of placing it right next to that title piece, so almost as if it would read summer, 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 and then the other word will read love. So my title will read Summer Love, and I initially was going to put them straight, and then I thought I wanted it to appear a little bit more whimsical, so you can see I'm actually going to place these a little askew. When you add your titles and overlap them or put them a little bit askew or off-centered, it adds to that whimsical, fun, carefree quality. And that's what I'm going for with this layout. It's very beachy. My niece is obviously having a good time, so I wanted that kind of look and feel. Now we're going to do some embossing on these chipboard hearts from Maya Road. Again, since my title reads Summer Love, I thought it was only appropriate to add some hearts. And there's several ways that you can color or add color rather to chipboard. You can use markers or spray mist, but I'm going to emboss them. So you can see I'm just pressing these down into my Versamark ink pad. I'm using the back edge of my tweezer so that I can make sure that I can really make sure that the edges of the heart get completely covered with the Versamark ink. And now I'm just going to use some rouge embossing powder from Stampin' Up, or from American Crafts rather. And you can see I'm just pouring it right over those hearts. I'm not worrying about the excess because I have it on a scratch piece of paper, which I will just fold and pour back into the jar when I'm done. So now that I have the embossing powder on my heart, I will bring it over to my heat tool, which I apologize is out of the reach of my camera. And you can see now I've embossed these with my heat tool, and I'm going to add them to my layout. I'm going to use some mini glue dots to adhere them. I find that with chipboard pieces, since they can be a little bit heavier, I want to use an adhesive that has more staying power. So I usually like to use something like glue dots. Now I'm going to come in here and add some of these enamel dots from My Mind's Eye. I'm just going to scatter them around. I like to add them in groups of 3s, and I'm using several different colors that are represented in the layout. Now I want to add a little bit more embellishments to the top photo, so I am going to be using one of these tidbits from Elle's Studio, and I'm going to adhere it to the side of this photo with some dimensional adhesive. I'm also going to add some more enamel dots, again in a group of 3. And once I place these down, I decide that I have this great little star pin from Maya Road. So I'm actually going to move one of these enamel dots and stick the star pin into the foam adhesive that is underneath the little tidbit. Now I'm just going to take some of these stickers from the Simple Stories sticker sheet, and I'm going to just add them along the bottom of the tidbit and to the side of the photo, just again for some more embellishments. I'm choosing words that have to do with taking pictures. The little tidbit reads, "Love that smile," and then the stickers read, "Photo op," and click, because my niece was just adorable when I asked her to smile for the camera while we were on the beach. Now moving along, I like to add my embellishments in groups of 3s as well in a visual triangle. So I am going to add another embellishment cluster up in the top left corner here above my large photo. Again, I'm using those Fancy Pants tags, which you can create on your own. You can see I purposely chose this green tag because I'm trying to create a visual triangle, not only between my title and the embellishments, but also in terms of color. So the green color is represented in the Fancy Pants tag, or rather title piece that says summer, and then as well as the banner piece, and now here up in the tag, the green color is there as well. So I've layered these tags, and now I'm just going to add a little striped file tab sticker. I'm trying to decide if I want to create another bow here or if that is too many bows, which I think it is, so I end up just kind of slicing that right off there. And of course, I have to add some more enamel dots to finish my visual triangle. So I'll just add those in a group of 3 in different colors. Here's a look at the completed layout and some detail images. For more information about Crop and Create Delivered, please visit www.scrapbookandcards.com or www.scrapbookandcardstodaymag.typepad.com.